Not my will, but yours be done.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Holy Influence Podcast. It is our second episode. I'm really sorry guys for the really long wait. I think it's been about a month since my last episode I made. But today we're joined by an absolutely extraordinary man, Dr. James Tour. Dr. Tour, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. I really wouldn't want to miss this one. This is an important podcast for me, just because I've known you for a long time. I've known you your whole life, and so I'm glad to help out.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, for those unaware, to me, Dr. Tour is the husband of Miss Shireen. That's how I knew him growing up so much. There's the guy who pulled my tooth out when I was a little kid in the sanctuary and gave me a crisp $10 bill. So I've known Dr. Tour for a really long time in our church as an extremely kind man who with an extremely kind family, and just seeing the ministry you do from that perspective. But then as I've grown up, I've just seen the incredible work you do online and in the academic field, that most of which I don't even understand ignorantly. But I love listening to your teachings. I went through the whole series you did on Acts and on the book of James, and I've just started the one in Isaiah these last few days. So I thank you so much for being here. For those of you that don't know him at all, he is a nanochemist at Rice University who's become well known online for a lot of his origin of life arguments. That's where I've seen him most. He's popped up on channels like Daily Dose of Wisdom. I did a podcast with Brandon McGuire over there. Absolutely great episode. Please go check that one out. As well, he has numerous PhDs. His credentials in that area speak for themselves. I don't even have to list all of them. He has over 198,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, where he posts origin of life commentaries. He posts questions and answers. He posts his podcast and his teachings through the book of Isaiah right now. And he also is a husband of 43 years to an incredible woman, Miss Shireen Tour, and he is a father to 4 children. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Tour.
Thank you.
Well, let's just get into some personal things about your life. What I admire most about you, Dr. Tour, is I see the joy that your family has, that you have, and the way you serve in our church. And I see that everything that I've listened to you teach about is just absolutely true in your life. Tell us a little bit about your story and how God has absolutely completely transformed your life. I think you have a very wonderful testimony.
So I was born in a secular Jewish home in New York City. My first home was in New York City. I grew up just north of the city. And I came to know the Lord at the age of 18. I went to college, Syracuse University, and it was right after my 18th birthday. And the first load of laundry that I ever did was just a couple weeks into the semester, and I was in there with another guy, and he was on the football team. So I asked him, "You going to play pro ball when you graduate?" He says, "Oh no, I'm not good enough for that." So what are you going to do? He said, "Probably lay ministry." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Probably a missionary." And I didn't even know that missionaries existed anymore. We don't have those among secular Jews. And so he perceived that I didn't know the Lord, which was true. And he said, "Can I give you an illustration of the gospel?" I didn't even quite know what he meant, but I said, "Sure." And so he explained to me the gospel. And I read the first verse. He opened the Bible, and it says, "For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God." I said, "I'm not a sinner." And he was a little bit surprised, but I know why I said that, because in modern secular Judaism, it's not little things that make you a sinner, it's big things. And so I told him I never killed anybody, I never robbed a bank. How could I be a sinner? And he said, so he turned to another verse, Matthew 5:28, and Jesus said, "I say to you that anyone who looks at a woman with lust for her has committed adultery with her already in his heart." And I was deeply convicted by this, because I was 18. I was addicted to pornography from the time I was 14. I was working at a gas station on the highway, and my job at the age of 14 was to clean parking lots and clean the restrooms. And I'd find these magazines that men would throw out on their way home from work, and I became heavily addicted. There was no internet in those days. It was many years before the internet, and I was addicted to pornography. And I didn't think anybody knew. Back in those days, people didn't share about their problems. Now people share all the time about their problems. They boast about their problems, but I didn't share about my problems. And so I was deeply convicted by reading that verse. And that was the first time in my life that I ever realized that I was a sinner. Then he took me through the gospel message about there's nothing that I can do in myself for being a sinner, that it's not by works that I'm saved, and how Jesus gave of himself for me. And he could probably have closed the deal that day if he knew a little bit better what he was doing. But um, it was a few months later. It was in November of my freshman year, November 7th, 1977, and I got on my knees and I asked God to forgive me. I was all alone in my room, and I was just blown away, because all of a sudden I felt the peace of God fill the room, and I felt that this burden of sin that I'd been carrying since August just lifted from me. And then all of a sudden, to my right, Jesus is standing. Just 3 feet away from me, Jesus is standing. And it wasn't an optical thing or an auditory thing, but I was on my knees, and I right away turned to my right, still on my knees. I put my face to the ground, and I just couldn't stop weeping, because Jesus was just pouring out such love on me. I'd never felt like that before, just like liquid love pouring out. He didn't say a word. I didn't hear anything, but his presence was just so strong. And I don't even know how long he was there. He didn't flash away. I mean, it wasn't a quick thing. And after a while, I got up, and I just couldn't stop thinking about Jesus. I never had a day like that before that. I never had a day like that after that. And I couldn't stop thinking about Jesus. And even I was dreaming about Jesus in my dreams. And I was even dreaming about telling people about Jesus. And here's this Jewish kid telling people about Jesus in his dreams. I didn't know, Cooper, that was a prophetic dream, that he was telling me what was going to happen to me as I got older, that I'd spend my life telling people about Jesus, and that's all I've been doing. And the guy who shared with me back in August, he lived on my floor, and he the same floor as me, and he saw me walking in the hallway a couple weeks later. He says, "Jim, have you received Jesus in your heart?" And I said, "Well, I think I have. Why do you ask?" He said, "You haven't stopped smiling for weeks." Something changed in me, and I became different. And then not too long after that, I started reading the scriptures every day, because I asked him, how could I stay close to God? He said, if you read the Bible every day, you'll stay close to God. If you don't, you won't. And so I started reading the Bible every day. So I've read the Bible every day. I mean, every day for 47 years, every day. Even when I was in the hospital getting operations, when I had the flu, when I had COVID, I mean, I just read the Bible. And now I start in Genesis chapter 1, and I read through to Revelation 22. And when done, I start again, and I'm in no hurry. So that's kind of how I came to know the Lord, and how I've stayed close to the Lord.
That's good. That's good. You're talking a bit about your struggles with pornography. And I know that's something, especially with the expansion of the internet, just something that's absolutely plaguing young men across not just the country, but in the church as well. How did God save you from that trap of pornography and lust, and just give a warning to men of how severe it is, how dangerous it is?
Well, I'm not judging anybody, because I was addicted myself, and I know how compelling that is. But what happened to me that day when Jesus appeared to me, he had showed me my sin through my addiction to pornography. But what he also did is, after November 7th, 1977, I was never drawn to pornography again. It was amazing. He doesn't do that with everybody. And I had a lot of other struggles that I didn't get delivered from. But that one he used to show me my sin, and that one he used to show me his deliverance. So I was delivered from it just like that day. There are many helps these days. There are websites you can go to. There are accountability programs that you can go through. But the problem with this, I have on my YouTube channel, I have an audio series. So it's not video; it's just audio series. I think it's on my website, jmtour.com under audio files, and it's a 6-part series on scriptural sexual ethics. 6-part audio series, and you listen to that starting at part 1, and you work your way through to part 6, and it gives you ways to really deal with that and to think about that. And it's not just young men anymore; it's young women as well, and it deals with that issue as well, and the problems that when you bring it into marriage, a lot of times young people will think, well, when I'm married, I don't need pornography anymore. No, if you don't deal with it, it'll carry right on through to your marriage, and it will really affect your marriage. So there are ways of dealing with this that I go through, and so I invite people there to listen to that 6-part audio series. Each part is only like 30 or 40 minutes, and so you just listen to it and start in part 1 and then work your way on through. And after that 6-part series, I think people will have a better understanding of everything that they're up against here.
It's beautiful. Praise God that for that deliverance. That's a wonderful story, and I know so many men are not going through that. I want to ask you now. You talk about this a lot in your teachings, in a lot of the ways that God has used your academic career to make the gospel known to people. I know one time you said nobody wanted to listen to just some Joe Schmo talk about the gospel, but because of not that nobody does, but God has used your position of influence to make the gospel known to so many people. Just talk about how God has used that, and kind of encourage men on how they could be a part of that, and how they could place themselves for opportunities to share the gospel in their workplace.
Yeah. Many people want to hear what I have to say about the gospel because I'm a scientist, and I was not born a scientist. I was not born again a scientist. And I always wanted to tell people about Jesus. Ever since I was newly saved, I wanted to tell people. I remember I came home, told my cousin, I told my family, I told my mother and father. But I was never very good at it. So it was years. I tried, and I might see one convert a year or something like that. It just really broke me up. But I would say in about 2017, somewhere around there, 2018, it frustrated me so much. So here I am, an adult. I was in my 50s, and I started just studying how the great evangelists evangelized. How did they do it? Every evangelism seminar I'd ever been to taught methodology. Okay, say this, read this verse, go through with this verse. Nothing changed. I didn't see converts. And I really tried. But, okay, I was going to study how the great evangelists did this. So I read about Charles Spurgeon, and I read about how he shared. I read about George Whitefield. I read about John Knox. So one after another, the great evangelists, classical evangelists, and how they shared. And the book, the Gospel Focus of Charles Spurgeon, I've probably read that book 50 times, over and over again. And then I also read The Evangelistic Zeal of George Whitefield. I probably read that 15 or 20 times. Neither of these men, same with John Knox, none of these men would share methodology, go through this, share this verse, share that verse. And even in Charles Spurgeon's Soul Winner, he has a book called Soul Winner. Even in that book, he doesn't share methodology. It's all about passion. It's all about crying out to God, Lord, give me salvations. Lord, let me see salvations. Lord, let me see salvations. And just pouring yourself out to God. And everybody wants a methodology. They want a prescription. Let me just see your slides. Let me see what you say, and I'll say it. It won't work. It won't work. You can't mimic somebody in this and expect it to work. And that's why Billy Graham could stand up and he could speak for 20 minutes and he had 1,000 people walking up to get saved. And you could stand up and do the same words and nobody's coming up. It's passion for God. And when you pour yourself out to God and you get serious about this thing and say, I'm really serious, Lord. I want to see salvations, and I'm going to throw myself into this. Then I started seeing salvations. So if I go a week without leading somebody to the Lord, it bothers me a lot. It bothers me a lot. So I'll usually see a person a week or a couple of people in a week, see them come to the Lord. And so this is very, very important to me. So that's kind of what I do with evangelism, and I take it very seriously. Like I'll be meeting with a guy tomorrow. He's in the UK, so I have to break up my day, and 12 o'clock I'm going to meet with him and by Zoom and share with him. And why do I do this? Because evangelism is serious, and I have to take it seriously. So I will stop for an hour and a half and just share with him, and I expect him to get saved tomorrow. And so I set these up, and I meet with people, and I meet with them on their schedule, and I have to do this. I'm driven.
That's awesome. Something a question came into my head. You said you're meeting a guy in the UK, and something I see in your teachings in every single podcast I've listened to about through Isaiah is that you invite people to meet with you in person or online. But I want to focus on that online meeting. How important is it for Christians to use the online space to share the gospel? Do you see a huge need for that? Is that something you feel personally called to do? Just encourage people in that. Share your thoughts on that, please.
Yeah, I'm sharing with people all over the world. So I put this little, I didn't monetize my YouTube channel for a reason. And people can donate and keep us going, and that's the way we survive. And in fact, we're not just surviving, we're thriving this way. But I do have little commercials that are 30 seconds that say, if you don't believe in the physical resurrection of Jesus Christ, send me an email to tour@drjamestour.org, and we will get together. And what happens is a lot of times Christians contact me. They already believe. They just want to see how to do it. And I said, look, I refer them to a few resources. This is a time that I set aside for unbelievers. This is what I do. And when I establish that they really don't believe, and then I arrange a time for them, and we set up an appointment. And usually if I'm not traveling, I try to do it within 2 or 3 days. I want to do it fast. If I could do it even the next day, I'll try to do it within the next 24 hours, because you got to hit people very quickly when their minds are on this thing and they're reaching out. And then what I do is we get together by Zoom, and I give them the simple gospel message. And everybody says, what is it? What is it? I use something called the bridge illustration. It's just I don't know, 6 or 7 Bible verses. Then we spend, so that takes about 30 minutes. And then we spend about another 20 minutes, 25 minutes just on the resurrection, because the resurrection is the fundamental of the Christian faith. Paul said, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that he's risen from the dead, you shall be saved. And that's in Romans 10:9. Think about this. He doesn't say you got to believe in the virgin birth. You got to believe in the crossing of the Red Sea. You got to believe Jesus walking on water. You got to believe the healing of the blind man, the restoring of the healing of the deaf man. None of that. It is the only thing you have to embrace is the resurrection of Jesus Christ. When Paul was speaking of the resurrection, he said, I delivered to you in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, I delivered to you as of first importance what I also received, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures. He was buried, and he was raised on the 3rd day according to the Scriptures. And he talked about the resurrection in that whole chapter. He says, if there is no resurrection, we are of all men most to be pitied. The resurrection is the deciding point. It's not even that our faith is based on the Word of God. Our faith is actually based on the resurrection. All of Christianity is based around the resurrection. It's the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And so that's what I focus in on. And I just go through evidence upon evidence for the resurrection, both biblical evidence and extra biblical evidence. I just spoke at Harvard University last week, and within a few days, well, maybe within the next week, I will post that video on my website, Dr. James Tour, and that I gave the outline right there in that video, exactly what I tell people on the resurrection, and this is what I do, and I see people saved all the time. People go from not believing in the resurrection to believing in the resurrection based on that 1 hour conversation over and over again. But I've prefaced that with pouring out my heart to God. Lord, save souls. Lord, save souls. And God sees that I'm serious in this, that I am going to dedicate several hours per week to share with people online. And that online space is really important because I can sit in the comfort of my own home or my own office and share with people all over the world. It's just amazing. So these people, these men and women that went before us preaching the gospel, they had to work so hard to go different places. And I can just do this just from the comfort of my own home. It's almost not fair. And I'll be sharing sometimes with women in Muslim countries that are in their kitchens with their headphones on and their family all around them, and seeing them get saved. I mean, you could just drop in. I feel like Philip the Evangelist, where I was just dropped in to share with this Ethiopian eunuch, and then the Spirit just picked him up and dropped him back off in Capernaum. I mean, it just that's what I do. I go from one Zoom call to the next, and the Spirit just picks me up and drops me off. It is just a powerful tool that God has opened up. Whoever would have thought that we could do this? And then this is predominantly for me the outcome of COVID, because I used to do this one-on-one all the time in person, and then COVID hit, and we had to find a different way, and that's what opened up the world to me.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I kind of want to hit on some of your other online content that you make. A lot of the content you make, and it revolves around origin of life study. So I want to let you speak. You're the expert here. I don't need to preface anything. You know what you're talking about here. I really don't. And so please briefly and simply talk about some of your origin of life study and where God has used that to push you forward.
Okay, so I use origin of life as a tool to preach the gospel. And so a lot of the content I'll speak on the topic of origin of life scientifically. So origin of life is an area of study called abiogenesis, before the first cell came. Evolution picks up from when you have a cell, how you go from that first cell to multicellular organisms and more complex organisms after that. That's evolution. Prior to evolution, you have abiogenesis. What happens? How did you get that first cell? So when I started studying this, I wanted to see, what people knew, and I studied it, and it's clear scientists are clueless on the origin of life, but they go around saying that they've created life, so that we understand how life formed, or we're just on the verge of solving this thing, and they've been just on the verge of this for 70 years. I mean, they're really clueless. And so what happens is we don't know how life formed. Such a fundamental question. We don't know how life formed. So I use that to teach on this, to teach about the problems with origin of life studies. But then I also use it as a springboard for the gospel. So everything for me is a springboard for the gospel. So I will talk about the cluelessness that we have. We don't know scientifically, and I will break down the chemistry, because that's who I am. I'm a chemist, so I can do this. And it challenges the people who work in the area of origin of life, and they just run from me. They don't want to discuss this with me because I'm exposing it. But for me, it's not about exposing my colleagues. In fact, that's a messy, dirty business. I don't particularly even like it. I use this as a springboard to show people how little we know about certain topics. And many people write to me. They say, I learned about these things in school. I learned about this abiogenesis. I learned about, we came from this stinky pond where there were some chemicals and lightning strikes and cells formed, and higher order creatures came slithering out of the pond. And I thought, you don't need God for any of this. And now after I'd listened to your content, I see, it was wrong of me to have strayed from God. So a lot of people are getting saved through all of this. And are returning to the Lord. And sometimes I talk about evolution topics and the same sorts of things that come up with this. And I recently did a podcast with a guy named Ron Statler, just in the last 3 or 4 weeks on my YouTube channel. Go check that out. You see the problems that also occur with evolution. And this draws people back to the Lord. So for me, everything is a springboard for the gospel. I've put my whole undergraduate once a week lectures from a semester on my YouTube channel on nanotechnology. Why did I do this? To draw people in so people listen, and then they see the advertising about I'll share with you the gospel. For me, it is all about the advertising to get engaged with people that don't know the Lord. I want to see them saved. And so you see this pattern. When you really want to see people saved, you will see them saved. If you're just dilly-dallying with this, you don't see people saved. But if you get serious with God, you will see people saved. So the whole Jesus and Science Foundation, the whole YouTube channel that I've started is a tool, is an instrument to preach the gospel, to draw people in, to share with them. Unabashedly, this is what I do. And I'm going to leverage my position as a chemist. People want to listen to me because I'm a chemist. We say, well, how does a scientist have faith? Well, here's how. And here's what I have to say on these topics. And many people get saved. They never meet directly with me, just listening to the content. They end up getting saved. And so, and many believers are strengthened to hear this scientist talk about faith. And they'll say, if you can believe it, I can believe it too. And so they're impressed by this. And I didn't start out as a scientist. You take your career and you use it and you leverage it for the cause of the gospel. Charles Spurgeon puts it this way. He said, we live in an impressionable generation, so we must impress ourselves upon them. And that's what I am going to do. And I'm going to take my career and take everything that I can and leverage it for the cause of the gospel to get people saved. Because I have seen what Jesus does in a person's life when their life changes. I mean, I've seen the radical change. Delivered me from pornography, but not just that, from all sorts of other things he delivered me from. And it changed everything in my life. It changed the type of woman I wanted to marry, the type of home that I wanted to have, how I wanted to raise my children, the career that I wanted to have. Everything changed when Jesus came in my life. And I've seen radical changes over and over again. So nobody can tell me that this stuff doesn't work. I see it work all the time in people's lives all around me. I see it all the time.
It's absolutely wonderful to hear your heart for evangelism. It's encouraging me a lot, for sure. And I'm encouraged by your work, the way you are just so unapologetic in sharing the gospel. Like you said, it's 30-second advertisements in every single video you post. I see that every single time. It's absolutely, like, you're exactly right on you being a scientist. If you can believe it, if you know the science and I see the science, and I see you talking about the science, it makes it so much easier for me to believe. Something I want to ask about is, you had a video you posted where you posed 5 questions to different origin of life scientists, and I wanted to know what I know. There's that kind of went viral a little bit. I saw some buzz around that back when it happened, but I want to revisit that. How is that challenge gone? I know that it's past the timeline you gave them. How did that challenge go? What was the conclusion of that?
Yeah, so Origin of Life researchers will always say we're close to solving this thing. And I wanted to show them how far away. So I asked them 5 questions, simple questions. Just make a disaccharide, hook 2 sugar molecules together using prebiotically relevant chemistry. Do the same thing with 2 amino acids. Do the same thing with hooking together, polymerizing some nucleotides to make some RNA. Where does the information code come from? And if I gave you all the components, how would you assemble a cell? So 5 really basic questions. And I said, look, you always tell me that you're close to solving this thing. So here's 5 things. If you can answer one of them, I will take down all the Origin of Life content on my YouTube channel and I'll never bother you guys again. And I had to put a deadline on this. So I said, you got 60 days and you guys can grade your own papers. You can just tell me how you can solve one of these things, and I'll let you grade it. Because I knew they couldn't mess around because the community would be watching. They couldn't solve it. I knew they couldn't solve it. I mean, this is trivial. I mean, as an organic chemist, I can write an exam that people cannot solve. I mean, that's not hard to do. And none of these guys could solve it. And it showed just the most basic of things in Origin of Life you can't solve. So how are you ever going to make a cell? And so, and nobody would come forward and contest with me on any of these aspects. Nobody would say that they could solve it, and nobody did. And and then Lee Cronin came out with his assembly theory, and I told him, okay, you got 2 years on assembly theory to show me the origin of life through this. You'll never solve it. You'll never solve this thing. And so you put these challenges, and then these people, it exposes them. It shows how little they know. But again, I was using that as a leverage for the gospel. I want people to see that, people to be attracted to it, and then push my colleagues on this too, at the same time. But for me, the underlying thing is to get the gospel preached. Sort of this is, it doesn't endear me to my colleagues when I do this type of thing, so. There's things that we have to do for the cause of the gospel. It doesn't always make us popular. In fact, show me one prophet in the scriptures that was popular with his peers. Jesus said, "Blessed are you when men revile you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you falsely on account of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you." He said, woe to you if all men speak well of you, for so they spoke of the false prophets. So if we're going to follow Jesus, it's not always going to be a delightful sort of thing. You're not always going to be well embraced. People will make fun of you. People will say things about you. But this is part of serving him. On the other side of it, Jesus was on his way to the cross in John chapter 12. John is not written chronologically. John chapter 12, he's very close to the crucifixion. People are flooding Jerusalem to be there because they're going to see from all over the world. They're coming in, they're going to see his crucifixion. And Jesus said, if anyone loves me, he must follow me. Where I am, there shall my servant also be. And if anyone serves me, the Father will honor him. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him. And if we serve Jesus, there's honor from the Father. And I look over my career, and I look at how much I've been blessed, and everything that God did in my career, and the size of the research group that I have, the papers I've published, the companies I've started, and I look at that, and this is all outpouring from God. This is God fulfilling his word, where he says that I will honor him who serves my Son. Jesus said, whoever serves me, the Father will honor him. So yes, there's ridicule, there's things that people say when we're going to preach the gospel, but on the other side of it, there's tremendous blessing that's poured out, tremendous blessings.
That's great. That's wonderful. I want to ask you one more question about your academic work, and then I want to talk to you about your family, because that's just something I've seen that is just so apparent in your ministry. But first, let's go to some of the scientific field. I know you have numerous awards and honors that ignorantly I just don't even understand the significance of, but I've also heard others and you briefly talk about some bias against yourself, and then also just more broadly Christians for proclaiming things in the scientific field. How has proclaiming Christ in this field led you to persecution, and how do you respond to that?
Okay, so first of all, things have happened, but the persecution level is like kindergarten level. In Hebrews, it says you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding blood. So that's almost like the threshold when you're talking about New Testament persecution. That's the entry level. That's the entry level. So I've never shed blood for my preaching of the gospel. In fact, one day I was doing open air preaching when I was in college, and there was a guy came up. He says he was going to punch me in the face, and he never did. And I was kind of wishing he would, because I wanted to shed some blood for the cause of the gospel. But I've never shed blood for the cause. So anything that I've gone through is like baby level for scriptural level persecution. Now, yes, I've been held out of certain societies and certain things, and people said, you're never going to get elected because of the positions that I've taken. This happens. This happens, and certain grants have not been given, and I've been told that because of my positions in these areas, both on origin of life and on my positions on, so both on origin of life, evolution, and on my positions regarding my faith. And so it has affected my career. But on the other side of it, there's so many blessings that follow from God. So yes, you will be persecuted, but Jesus said, blessed are you when you're persecuted. He said, leap for joy. Leap for joy. So we're even to leap for joy. One day I was standing by my kitchen table. I stood up and I started jumping up in the air. And Shireen said, what are you doing? I said, I'm leaping. I'm leaping. There was some persecution today. Jesus said, leap. And so this is the best I can do. I'm leaping. And Jesus said, do this. This is going to come with it. And if you want to be liked, this is not the walk for you. But it says in John chapter 12, it says, many even of the rulers believed on him, but they were not confessing him for fear that they would be thrown out of the synagogue. And thrown out of the synagogue is a serious thing. It's different than getting thrown out of a church. You just go across the street and go to another church. Thrown out of the synagogue meant that you had no relations with your own people. I mean, you were an outcast. And so one might say, okay, we can understand that. It's hard. They'd be thrown out of the synagogue, so they weren't confessing him. But the very next verse says, because they loved the approval of men more than the approval of God. So even getting thrown out of the synagogue, it's like God has no patience with this if you're not going to testify of him. He says, because they love the approval of men more than the approval of God. If we want the approval of God, there are times we are not going to be liked. There is not a prophet who was well liked in the Bible, not a single one of them. And this is what it means to walk with Jesus. If the world hates us, know that it hated him first. And it's not hating us for who we are. Jesus even says that. It's because of who Jesus is that they hate us. And so yeah, I haven't been invited into certain societies among chemists, and you may think, what big deal? But in my community, that's kind of a big thing. I mean, you go a career, you want to get in these different societies, but you don't get in. And I mean, they told me directly why I wasn't getting in. And so expect some of this. These are the things that are going to happen. And maybe you love the approval of men more than the approval of God. That could be. A lot of people want the approval of men more than the approval of God. But think about that. Is that what you really want? Because Jesus put it differently. Satan in Matthew chapter 4 took Jesus up to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And Satan said to him, all these things I'll give to you if you just fall down and worship me. And Jesus said, begone, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Because Jesus knew that everything in the world given to us will never fulfill us. It'll never satisfy us. There's no satisfaction in all of this. You get all of it, it won't satisfy you. He says there's only two things that'll satisfy you. Only two things. It is the worship of God and serving Jesus. He says that you shall worship the Lord your God and you shall serve him only. It's only those things. That's it. And in the end, when you lay down your life, when you lay down your head at the end of your life and you look back and you think that, wow, I wanted the approval of men more than the approval of God, it's going to be a sad day. And what he does is he gives us this opportunity to make this decision. Do I want to serve God? And do I want to worship him? Because Jesus said worship and service. Worship is a fundamental part of our life. When we read the scriptures, we are worshiping God. When we go to church, we worship God. This is an important part of life. He says that's one of the fundamentals. The other thing is you serve him. You serve him. And to serve him means that you will be rejected by men. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. It is not easy to be rejected by people, especially earlier on, especially the first 10 times it happens. But I'll tell you, after the 100th time, it doesn't hurt as bad. You're like, oh, there's another person who doesn't like me. Oh, and they're saying all this stuff about. I mean, I don't remove anything of the comments underneath any of my videos unless it has 4-letter words, derogatory stuff. We say right up front, you got to keep it clean. But if it doesn't have that, I mean, there's people, I mean, they call me a liar all the time. I mean, I'm well known for the liar. And I said, what exactly did I say? You lie all the time. Okay, well, I lie all the time. Okay, tell me, what did I say that was a lie? And they never point to anything. If they're going to pull out something scientific, I'll say, okay, show me the paper that shows that I'm a liar. So they never point out, but I'm called a liar all the time. And that was started by one YouTuber started calling me that. And now people, but after a while you get used to it. And at first it's like, wow, I got to somehow defend myself. No, I mean, Jesus wasn't defending himself all the time. I mean, there are times that, when my colleagues have said certain things and I've come to, I've made a video and I defended my position. But in general, I can't chase all these things down from most of these people. And most of the people that complain, they have nothing else to do anyway. That they're going to sit there and do that. So it phases you less after a while. So the more you get, the more you go through it, the more you can sustain it. It's like in toxicology. We have this saying in toxicology which says that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And so that's sort of what it is.
That's good. That's good to hear. I think that's something a lot of young people struggle with, in not even in a professional setting, but of like the approval of people around them. They want to act differently. They want to wear different things. They want to listen to certain music. They want to watch certain things so that they can keep up with. And I think on social media, it's just perpetuating this lie and this idea that you need to be approved by men and by people. You need to know what shows that you need to know this show so you can keep up with it. But this show just is filled with absolutely disgusting, dishonoring content to the Lord. And I think hearing that from you, who's, I mean, as you said, not compared to the New Testament standards of persecution, but in an actual academic field, in your career facing persecution, it's really encouraging to hear that. Thank you so much for sharing. You go to a lot of scripture. I admire that about you. You know your scripture. It's apparent that you say you've been studying the Bible for, I think, 45 years in a row. Like it is
47.
Apparent. 47. Sorry, 2 years longer. That's my bad. It's apparent that you do that. So thank you so much. And then lastly, I want to talk about what a lot of people say is your first ministry, your wife, and then your second ministry to your kids. First, do you agree with that statement of it being your first ministry?
Yeah, I guess so. That's the way your dad teaches it.
Yeah, that's what he says.
I don't bifurcate it. I don't say, okay, you're first, you're second, you're third. Sometimes the kids are in trouble and you gotta minister to them. So, yeah, I love my family. When the kids were very small, I think my older one was like 4 and the younger one was like 2. And my father-in-law was visiting and he said, I see you pray with your kids before you put them to bed, but you're going to have a regular time with them, teaching them in the Bible. And I really took it to heart. And on that day, I decided I was going to do that. And so for the rest of their lives, until they graduated from high school, and from the day they came home from the hospital when they were born, I would get them up at 5:30 in the morning Monday through Friday, and we would have family devotions together, and we'd memorize scriptures together. We'd read the Bible together, and we'd get on our knees together and we'd pray for one another. And then I was out of the house by 6, and that was my practice, and the kids knew that. That's the way we grew up. We had family devotions till they left the home, and so that's what we did. I wouldn't say I'm perfect. I wouldn't say my kids are perfect, but I did the very best that I could. I had a busy career, a busy life, um, but they meant a lot to me. And Shireen is my wife is amazing. She's really amazing. I mean, not too many people, not too many women would put up with me, and she has a very big heart. You know, she loves people. She serves people even to this day. She serves over 70 meals a week to college students in our home. Over 70. I mean, she's crazy about blessing people with food. She sends meals to cancer patients, to shut-ins every week. I mean, she's doing this, and she's an amazing lady, and I've come to appreciate her more and more. Every year I appreciate her more. I didn't know when we got married that she had all of this in her. I really didn't. I mean, she was really pretty. I knew that, and she had a sweet heart. But I mean, there's so much you learn about the other person in marriage, and so I really love being with my wife. I really do. I mean, when she's home, I'm much happier, and she'll say, "Oh, well, that's because I serve you food. That's why." I say, "Yeah, that's part of it," but she's just fun to be with. She laughs a lot. She laughs a lot more than I do. If I'm around her, I smile much more because she's always making jokes about me or something, and it or else I get very serious with people. You know, I get real stern and serious and start saying things, and she just really has a good heart. And then all the kids, I mean, I got 4 kids, and they all love her more than they love me. I mean, it's clear. They come to me for money, and they come to me when they're in trouble, but they go to her because no matter what problem they present, I mean, she's always kind and compassionate and loving, and I'm like, okay, well, here's what you got to do, and I'm going to I'm going to direct them in the right way, but they need somebody to just show kindness to them, and they, so that's kind of how our family is, and every family is a little bit different, and I know your dad goes out and he has all these particular dates with your mom, and we tried to do that, and I mean, we just did what we did, and I hated going out to dinner all the time because I travel a lot for my career, and I had to eat out a lot, and I learned to hate it. I just want to eat at home, so I just want to be home, and I'd rather just hang out with my wife at home, and plus when we're at home, you know, I don't know if we sit across the table from one another, just the two of us out to dinner. We end up talking about the kids anyway. We might as well have the kids around us. I mean, what's to talk about? And she doesn't talk chemistry, and, you know, sometimes I just start looking off in the air, and she says, "You're thinking about your chemistry again, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, we got these great project going on," and everybody is different, and we enjoy serving the Lord together. We really enjoy ministering together. I love seeing my wife serve people and doing ministry together, and I'll teach the Word of God, and then she serves them food. And that's what she loves to do, and she coordinates that. And I just love serving with her. She's at my side, so that's kind of my family. We tried to get our kids to love the Lord, and I pray that they do, and I pray that they continue walking with the Lord, and that's kind of who we are.
It's awesome. This is a last thing. We're at like 50 something minutes here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. This is something I didn't plan at all. This is just, I was reminded of what you said. You're talking about service. And I want you to charge young men. And the way I heard you in your Acts series, you talked about Acts chapter 5. I had never heard this understanding this passage of the young men. Once they lie to Peter, and the couple fall and they die, and it says the young men came and carried the bodies out and buried them. Charge young men in the same way in that teaching that you charge young men to serve in the church. It was incredible.
The first job of young men in the church was to bury dead people. Ananias and then Sapphira. It says the young men carried them out and buried them. So they carried dead bodies. I mean, young men are to work in the body of Christ. Young men, I saw your video you did of setting up all these chairs in this room, you and your friends there at A&M. And this is what young men are to do. I have set up so many chairs when I was young. I mean, so many chairs and tables. Now the church tables are light. I mean, they're really light. You could pick them up with one finger. They weren't like that. They used to be wood. I mean, a big slab of plywood, and then heavy steel underpinnings under those things. And as soon as you'd pick them up, they dig right into your hand. And I set up so many church tables and chairs and mop floors. This is what young men do. You go through a season of this. This is what you do. You don't be the person sitting around and saying, well, I attended the meeting, rah, rah, good for me. No, that you don't just attend meetings. You serve. You serve to the point that if you were not there, people would notice it. That's what you want. That I got to be there. I got to set these things up. I'm going to break them down. I'm going to put them away. I'm going to be the last one to leave this place, to clean up and help with the dishes. You serve. This is what you do. And this is what the body of Christ does, and you serve in this way. And I'll tell you, there is so much blessing. And I can look over my life, and I see the young men that were serving, the young women that were serving and setting up stuff and doing things. Their lives were much more blessed. Their marriages were much happier marriages, because it's much better to be married to a selfless person than a selfish person. And then people will see you serving and they'll want to marry you. And this is exactly what it should be. I tell young men, look for the young women in the campus groups and in the body of Christ who are there serving. Look for the young women that are serving. They would make good wives because they serve. They don't just sit around and expect people to wait on them. And then young women, look for the young men that are serving. Those are the guys that are going to be up and busy in the house doing things and not just sitting around watching TV all the time. So look at these guys. Yeah, like Cooper. Look at Cooper. Look at the guys setting up chairs. Yeah, these are the guys that you want to think about marrying, because they're going to be it's going to be a much happier home. They're the ones that are going to be out with the kids and working with the kids and doing things and going to their ball games and helping them and coaching, like Cooper's dad. I mean, he coached like every team. Every team that these kids were on, he was coaching them. It didn't matter whatever they were in, he was coaching it. So this is what you want, and this comes through service.
Thank you so much. That was incredible to hear. I would love to share a personal story with you after we finish about hearing that and then sharing that with others. Well,
why don't you share the story now?
I'll share it now.
You can't do this on a podcast and say I'm going to share after the podcast. Say it now.
Good. I have, because of that teaching, I have now, like, I'm going to be on our leadership team in our ministry. It's called the Bot G team, Boots on the Ground team. And I use that passage in Acts 5. Don't worry, I did quote you on that. I didn't act like I made that up myself. But I get to now lead that team of young men going around and setting up, tearing down, particularly for our college ministry stuff. But I want to push that to the rest of the church, because I feel like it's a waste of my youthful, strong body to not be setting up every chair and table in the entire church when there's a 60-year-old, 80-year-old man who would gladly do it. But when he wakes up in the morning, his back's going to hurt because he picked up 3 chairs, you know? And then something else, when you're talking about marriage with the young people, it reminded me of a joke that's often said online and in the church of, I'm picking up 6 chairs so all the girls see me. But I know in your teaching you talked about doing it so the Lord sees you, and especially with your idea of approval of man, that the Lord sees it and not that other people see it. But You said that and it reminded me of that joke, which is
Good.
a good one.
Well, the young ladies do see it, and they're impressed when you can carry, 3 chairs in each hand. You're walking with 6 chairs rather
impressive.
than 4 or 2. Only wimps carry 2
Only winners
chairs.
carry 2 chairs.
Yeah, you got to be a man. You got to carry 6 chairs.
You got to
Till your
fight
fingers hurt.
with your friends to carry as many chairs as you possibly can. Don't let them get any chairs.
Yeah.
They'll
Just
notice them.
just slide your whole arm underneath them and just fill your 2 arms with them and carry those. And that's the way to do it. That's what men do.
That was awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Tour. We're going to end right here. We're at 58 minutes about.
All right, wait, just 1 second. You got to give a plug again for my YouTube channel.
Oh, that's right. This
Yeah,
will go
at
on
YouTube,
yours.
it's Dr. James Tour. Go to YouTube, Dr. James Tour, and you'll find it. And you can connect with me through that. You'll see a lot. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram and X and what else are we on? Rumble and TikTok. All at Dr. James Tour. So you can connect lots of ways.
Of course. Yeah. Please go check out his content if you have not seen it already. If you're interested in what he talked about with Origin of Life, he has way more on his channel. I know he has a long video series going through that. Most of what I listen to is his study through Isaiah currently, and he has one on James and Acts, a few others that I think one on Galatians too. He has a few studies on there that are extensive that go through the entire books. They're really long, so be prepared to go through a lot of episodes, but they're incredible studies, and I've learned so much through them.
And from my website, jmtour.com, and I think it's also on the YouTube channel, The Chronological Life of Jesus. That's 183 messages, each one about 30 minutes. But if you go through that number 1 through number 183, it goes through all 4 Gospels, tracking the life of Jesus, and you will come out spiritually muscular after that. You will know a lot.
That's good. Well, thank you so much again, Dr. Tour. It was a joy to have you. I appreciate you coming on here, sharing your time with me. It was such a joy.
God bless you.
All right. Thank y'all for watching. If you're on Dr. Tour's channel, please come check out mine. If you're on his channel or on my channel, please go check out his channel. He's got way better content than I do.
What is your channel? You got to give that plug.
It's called Holy Influence. That's what the name of this podcast is. It's called Holy Influence. I actually just changed the name today. It was just originally my name, but I'm going to stick with that branding of Holy Influence. I really like it. But yeah, thank y'all so much for watching. Both channels, please like, subscribe, comment, and go check out the other's channel. I appreciate y'all so much.
Y'all when you on Tom Cruise and Top Gun, he been directing this movie. I went and studied for truth, cause what are we actually doing? And the shopper said I'm still improving, but it's Christ who corrected my movements. Living plain in the spirit, not taking flight, but I'm not, can you hear it?